Hello, and welcome to section 9.4, which concerns multiplication with negative numbers. Now, just before I forget, remember we in 9.1 we talked about the number line 0, and then we talked about positive numbers go to the right, and the negative numbers increase in the negative direction, right? Or they, this way. Now, the set of all of these numbers, that is negative numbers, positive numbers, and 0, that is called the integers. So when I talk about negative numbers and I talk about positive numbers, I'm really talking about integers, which is both. Okay? Integers contains all the positives and all the negatives. And the reason I wanted to make sure that you understood that is because we're going to use the word integer in our Newton, so I didn't want you to be confused. Okay, so anyway. So let's go ahead and notice some things with negative numbers. So let's go ahead and multiply these things. 3 times negative 5 is 15 negative. Remember, multiplication is repeated addition, right? So negative 5 plus negative 5 plus negative 5 is negative 15. And then vice versa, if you were to do negative 3 5 times, you would get negative 15. If you do negative of a negative, that when you're multiplying, that becomes positive 15, and this is positive 15. So what is the rule, right? So for multiplying integers, so I think, we can use the word integers. That's actually better. You would do, so you have if you have a positive number times a negative number, your answer will be negative. If you have a positive number times a positive number, your answer is positive. If you have a negative number times a positive number, that's also negative. And then if you have a negative times a negative, that's positive. Okay, so that's basically the rule. So you just make sure you have it somewhere. This is for multiplication, and then you'll see later that it's also for division. Multiplication. But then that also applies to division, but we'll talk about that in the next section. Okay, yeah, so same signs are positive, different signs are negative. Okay, so we multiply the numbers and then just check the sign. Okay, so two numbers with the same sign is positive and negative, different signs is negative, okay, for multiplication. Okay, let's talk a little bit about multiplication with exponents, of negative numbers with exponents. So here, this whole thing is in the parentheses, so this little square is telling me, hey, multiply negative 5 times itself, right? So that's going to become a positive 25, okay? Now when you see this here, it's totally different. This is negative, and then it's 5 times 5, because only the 5 is, the little 2 is only talking about the 5 here. So you can just think of it like this. So 5 times 5 is 25, and it's the negative of that. So that's negative 25, okay? So in this case, you have negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, which ends up being negative 8. So that's okay. And then this one is negative 8. So you see when it's odd, this is going to still be odd. It's going to still be negative, right? Because negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, because it's a 3, 1, 2, 3, that's going to be positive 4 times negative 2, which ends up being negative 8. Okay? So positive 4 times negative 2 ends up being negative 8. And then this one, of course, that's just 2 cubed 8, which is the negative of that. Okay, so when it's even, it's different. You see how it's different signs? So just make sure that you don't get them confused, okay? All right, so let's do some super fun examples. Again, as always, you can pause this and then try them on your own. And then let's go ahead and go through them together. Okay, so here you just have negative 3 times 2 times negative 5. So that's going to be negative 6. If I just go from left to right, negative 6 times negative 5, which is positive 30. Okay, negative 6 times itself, that's 36. It's positive. And then here you have to do parentheses first, so this is negative 6, and on the inside you have 3 plus negative 5. Remember, that's subtraction, negative 2, right, on the inside, and you keep the sign of the larger. So then negative 6 times negative 2, that's going to become positive 12. Okay, so then this here, negative 4 plus 5 times, and then in parentheses, negative 6 plus 2 becomes negative 4. And then becomes negative 4, this is negative 20, so minus 20. With same signs, when you're adding, you keep the sign and you add, right? So that's negative 24. Okay. And then this one here, 2 times negative 7 is negative 14 plus, and then 3 times negative 6 is negative 18, so you would just combine these, that would be negative 32. And then here, negative 3 times 2 minus 9 is negative 7, right? We take the difference, keep the sign of the larger. And then 4, same signs, add, right? So that's negative 9, and keep the sign. And now let's continue. So that's 21, because it's a negative 3 times a negative, it's positive, plus 4 times negative 9 is 36. And then we take the difference of these two, which is 15, but it's negative because a larger number is negative, okay? So you kind of see how we're building skills here. So negative 3 minus 7, that's negative 10. And then 2 minus 6 is negative 4, and then that's equal to positive 40. Okay? All right, and the same rules still apply for fractions and decimals. You just multiply across, and you just, whatever the sign is, you obey the rules for signs. So this way, this would be, this is a positive times a negative, so it's negative 6 over 15, which reduces to become negative 2/5. You could have also done this by noticing that diagonally these cancel out, and then you get negative 2/5. Here you can do diagonal also, or you can just multiply straight through. In this case, if I was to reduce this by 7, 7 goes into itself once, 7 goes into 14 twice, okay? So this becomes negative 1 times negative 5, or however you want to think about it. These two numbers is going to end up being positive, so 5 over 8 times 2 is 16, and it's negative times a negative, so it becomes positive, okay? And then here, 5 times 3.4, negative 5 times 3.4, right? It's going to be 17, but it's going to be negative, okay? Because a negative times a positive is a negative. All right? And that's it for 9.4. Super fun homework, 1 through 55 odd. Happy studying, and I will see you in the next video.